Welcome back, everybody, to the Insightful Podcast. We gain insight in order to move forward in life. Today's episode, we are going to be speaking about how the hustle never ends if your worth is work based. But before we get into it, remember, if you guys have been enjoying the podcast so far, please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know any other future topics you'd like me to discuss in the future. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. You know how I like to do this: 5 points. You guys get some value from it, and maybe you can implement this into your life after this video. So, for the first point, hustle becomes identity, not just action. When your self worth is tied to achievement, rest feels like failure, not recovery. We're kind of building off the previous episodes that you have seen so far, and that is the truth is when your self-worth is tied to achievement. Anytime that you're not achieving something great, you think you're not good enough, you hate yourself, you think you're not doing anything, and this kind of leads you down the wrong path. Because when you think like this, you may think it's productive, you may think it's the reason why you keep pushing forward, but it's actually keeping you smaller. Because I'm telling you, is if you have this betrayal of yourself that you believe, this is not going to lead you anywhere. This is going to make you feel worse about yourself, right? So I think it's super important that you hustle as an action, but you don't allow it to become who you are and your identity. For the second point, you can't outwork a worth wound. No amount of success will heal a heart that thinks it needs to earn love through validation and identity, right? The only time I'd ever feel good about myself before is when I was doing something productive. I couldn't just, step away from everything and just still feel the same way about myself. Immediately it goes to these negative thoughts, having doubt within who I am and who I'm going to become. So I think as long as you're able to look past that and just have this ability to see your worth even when you're not in the trenches just grinding all the time, I think that's much more important, right? Because you're going to have time to grind, you're going to have time to work extremely hard, but that's not how it should always be, and you shouldn't just feel good about yourself when you're doing that, right? For the third point, productivity without purpose is a trap. If you're always chasing but never arriving, ask, what are you really running from? A lot of the times we just do things on a day to day basis to feel productive, to feel as if we're making progress or doing something. But it's much deeper than that. You could get a lot done in one day if you just put your mind to a certain task, get it done, and then after it, you just allow yourself to rest and do the things you actually want to do. You taking 3 hours off on a random day, and before that you were working for 9 hours straight. It's like, is that really putting you behind taking those 3 hours off? And what does it really matter if all you're doing is grinding all the time and you can't even enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? So I think it's super important that you hustle, you do things right, and then when there is that downtime to have fun or to experience, you don't just push it away because you want to be more productive. you know the whole monk mode thing, I'm so glad it's not spoken about anymore, because when I first discovered self improvement, I would say I was on a version of monk mode where all that mattered to me was my task list and getting things done. And if a new opportunity presented itself that was different from what I usually did on a day to day basis, I wouldn't go do it because I would feel bad and be like, oh, I don't want to feel as if I'm doing nothing, right? So I think it's more important to have a good balanced schedule, get work done, grind, push yourself in the right direction towards your goals and purpose, but then also allowing yourself to rest, recover, and experience and enjoy life, because that balance is what will make you feel truly fulfilled, right? For point four, your value isn't a KPI. You are not your output. You are not your resume. You are not a project to optimize. If everything that matters to you is your grind and your work, you'll feel empty because you won't have good relationships. You wouldn't have experienced anything cool because you're just so enthralled in your work and so focused on your work and wrapped around it that even when you are spending time with others and people you care about, you can't even see past that, right? So I think it's super important to see way past what you're currently doing and the actions you're taking towards your goals and allow those things to happen because you're pushing anyways. But then when it comes time to step away from it, you're fully present in that moment and you're spending time with the people that matter to you and you're doing the work necessary, only when it matters, only when the time is there for that. And then when you're stepping away from it, you're fully present in being with others, experiencing life. Because I don't think this is spoken about enough in this space, in the self-improvement space. A lot of people get so focused on the grind that they don't even know how to communicate with others. They can't speak to new people because they're so awkward. And that used to be me. So you need to kind of step away from that and still experience life, because monk mode is not the way. For the fifth and final point, peace requires a new metric. You can hustle forever or you can redefine enough. Fulfillment starts when you stop performing for it, right? And that's where you find peace, is that you're no longer attached to your output on a day-to-day basis. If I don't get this amount done, I don't feel like me. You kind of just have a task list, you do the work, and then if things come up, it is what it is. You go with the flow and you don't allow yourself to just hate what you're doing or hate who you are just because you didn't show up every single day, because some days, no matter what is planned, things will get in the way and you can't feel bad about yourself because you didn't get everything done. You know what I mean? So just having a nice, balanced, fulfilled life starts with, grinding, hustling, working towards your dreams, but then also allowing yourself time to rest and not feel guilty about it. That is all I wanted to go over in this podcast. Thank you guys for making it this far. Remember to follow us on Spotify. I really want to grow the audience there. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, remember to like, comment, subscribe. We gain insight in order to move forward in life. Take care, everybody, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Crush a cold to a diamond, eyes forever shining. Your beauty alone inspire a nigga to rhyming.